The following podcast has been rated PGN. Parental guidance is neglected.
Boy, it's been a long time since we've had a little father-son chat.
I am your father.
Father, if you can hear me, I failed.
Don't let your mother smell that beer on your breath. She'll take it out on me.
I'm here with my dad.
I know what you're gonna say, son. And you're right. You're right.
Who is your daddy and what does he do?
I've abandoned my boy!
Hey, everybody, welcome aboard. It is the PGN podcast. That's Parental Guidance Neglected. You just heard our theme music, which is now... Are we going to update that theme music ever, like the sound bites? I don't think we're ever going to find any more sound bites in films about dads. I feel like...
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like we got it on the first go.
Yeah, I don't think we need to do that. I think we'll keep it. I think this is what will happen. I think as we grow, which, by the way, guys, we're doing exponentially. But I think...
Yeah, every day the number's doubling. So.
Doubling and doubling. I think what we'll do, Jackson, is I think we're never going to redo the actual song, but we'll just have covers of it. Like we'll add more orchestration to it. Like maybe at some point we'll have like right. We'll have guest musicians. We'll do a new version of it. So the song stays the same, but we just like, you know, hey man, our good buddy Eddie Vedder took a stab at singing something for us.
That's so weird that you said Eddie Vedder, because in my head I was just gonna say the exact same thing, and I don't know why, really? Because I never listened to anything that Eddie Vedder has ever done. But
you're not a Pearl Jam fan? You're not a Pearl Jam fan?
I can't say that I am. I'm not like I don't like hate them. It's just not really. I would never be like, you know what I need right now? A little bit of Pearl Jam. That's just not a sentence that I would say, I don't think.
You know, since we're talking music, this is a movie podcast, but my son approached me. That's Jackson Burns. You're listening to Jackson Burns and Regan Burns right now, two generations talking movie and whatever. My son, who has other side projects besides this, believe it or not, he needs me for one of his other projects, podcasts. That's the Good Enough podcast. Three young lads talking music and new releases. He wants me to pick a song that he doesn't know, and you said it could be from any era, right, Jackson? It could be like from the 50s.
It could be any song. It has to be a song that you like that I don't know that you think that I would like.
Right. Also, I'm also going to say before I get into this, apologies to anyone who's watching this. I can tell the video's glitching a little bit, but the audio seems to be nice and clear. So if Jackson's freezing up, hopefully the sound is working right. And just understand that until we move into our new studios in Berkshire, England, which we have in the works, you're just going to have to deal with some technical glitches once in a while.
Why?
So anyways, yeah, I was really thinking about it last night, and I'm not going to reveal here because I haven't decided which song I'm picking for you. So again, this has to be a song that I really like, that I think Jackson would like, that he's never heard before. And if I told you it was between a song with singers or it was an instrumental, which... do you think I should lean towards, or are you like?
I think the instrumental. I think go with the instrumental. I think that might be a little more my tempo. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'll listen to both of them, but for the official pick, I don't know, the instrumental. I'm intrigued by that more.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to give it away to you. I'm not going to tell you right now, but I will give you just like a little teaser. It starts. Okay. It starts like this. Dun 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 dun.
The Rocky theme song.
Oh, you know that one? Oh,
I think I know that one.
I guess I gotta go back. Before. Oh, I gotta go back to the drawing boards. No, it's
back to the drawing board. Jeez, yeah, I'm sorry.
No, it's not that one. But okay, maybe. Well, by next week when we do our show, I'll let you know what song I picked.
Yeah,
and if Jackson's had a reaction to it yet. There you have it. Two generations talking movies. We got a couple new movies in theaters to discuss, as well as some old business and a little backtracking on some films that I had forgotten I saw, and that I caught up on some things that Jackson saw, and he's been busy watching a lot of stuff through school. But before we get to that, God, there's been an awful lot of breakdown of the 2024 Oscar ceremony. But Jackson and I have officially not discussed our thoughts, what we liked about the show, what we didn't like about the show, any awards that surprised us. And, of course, the most important thing, who got the most correct out of the 23 categories? Jackson, I was so impressed with you. You got a total of 18 out of 23 correct. That's fantastic. I mean, that is just missing 5 of
something
the 23.
to be proud of, really. Yeah.
It really is something to be proud of. It's so much better than your dismal showing last year. Unfortunately, I got 19 correct out of 23. So
stinking Zone of Interest. I should have had more faith in. I'm so pissed about that because I that was the one that I wanted to win, and so it's just I went too far in the wrong direction. Last year I had too much faith in the Oscars, and this year I had too little. So
yeah, Jackson kind of took an early lead with some of my missteps on. I thought Barbie was going to win a couple more. Ended up just winning song. And then we kind of tied it up, and then it came down to sound. And I got to be honest with you, when we did our picks on the air, I was shocked you didn't pick Zone of Interest. I mean, I thought for sure you were to go with that. But he went.
It wasn't favored. It just wasn't favored.
It
wasn't favored to win.
Yeah, they had to give it. Well, it got Best International as well. But anyways, it was the Oscars. No big shockers really overall. Some people are saying Emma Stone was a bit of a surprise over Lily Gladstone, but to be honest with you, Emma deserved it. I loved Lily Gladstone in Killers of the Flower Moon, but I think the studios really did her a disservice in putting her in the Best Actress category. I think that was a supporting role. She's just not in that much of the film, so I don't know if she would have beaten Divine Joy Brown, but I think she would have had maybe a bit of a better shot.
Divine Joy Randolph.
Yeah, Divine Joy. What did I say? Divine Joy. What did I call her?
She said Divine Joy Brown.
Divine Brown. I believe Divine Brown was the name
just
of the.
Not at all even close.
You don't even know this, but I think Divine Brown is the name of the prostitute that Hugh Grant was caught with back in the 90s. And now Jackson's got a look of shock. He didn't even know Hugh Grant had,
the prostitute.
He got caught getting receiving a little something in his car from a street hooker.
Huh.
Yeah, and I believe her name was Divine.
Just
Brown.
another Tuesday for me.
Another Tuesday for you, Jackson.
Yeah.
There you have it. You'll never watch About a Boy the same way. It was the Oscars. Overall, I thought the show was better than it has been in the last few previous years, the crazy COVID years. I didn't think the show was exceptional. I thought there were exceptional moments. And I thought Jimmy Kimmel was a little off his game, but not horrible, but certainly not great. I think it's...
Really?
I know. I'll get to you and your thoughts on that. I will tell you this, though, and then I'll hand it over to you. If they do not get John Mulvaney to host the Oscars next year, someone's missing the boat because
John
I don't.
Mulaney. Dude,
John
the last
Mulvaney.
Today.
Yeah, I'm bad with it. John Mulaney. His bit was so funny and was obviously just like pretty much an audition to host them next year. I would be shocked if his agents were called the next morning. Like, would you be interested next year? Just overall, Jackson, what did you think of the show? Because I know you have some thoughts.
Yeah, I thought Jimmy Kimmel was pretty horrible. To be honest, I really didn't think that he did that good of a job. I thought that his insistent attacking of Robert Downey Jr. after I feel like he made it pretty clear that he was uncomfortable with what was going on, just unprofessional and unnecessary.
Yeah.
I agree. John Mulaney was cracking me up. You should watch after this his monologue at the American Spirit Awards, because he hosted some award show earlier this year.
I think it was the
and it was just hilarious.
Yeah,
he's so good at it.
Yeah,
Independent Spirit Awards. He was just hilarious.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I'm gonna be honest. I don't. I think that Emma Stone did deserve the award. I was a little disappointed that it didn't go to Lily Gladstone. I was really rooting for her. And you can kind of tell on Emma Stone's face when she got the award that that was not what she had expected to happen.
I think a lot of people lost their...
most things went pretty much according to plan.
Yeah, a lot of people, I think, lost their Oscar pools because of the Emma Stone thing. What did you think of the John Cena bit, the streaker, the costume thing where he came out naked holding the card in front of him?
And we're back.
Yeah, and you're back. Okay, well,
I'll find a way to cut that out.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was your first edit of the show. You were saying about the young and not so young and naked John Cena bit. What'd you think?
Yeah, I don't know. It was fine. I missed it happening live, so I caught the clip later.
Right.
I mean, weird. Is it weird to do that? Am I a little weird for saying that? Just to be. I mean, I thought it was like a good bit, but then I was like, oh, he's really on stage naked. That's kind of crazy.
Well, I mean, obviously, I'm sure he had a little thong or a little codpiece thing behind in case for some reason it dropped. But yeah, it was ballsy of him. I'll give him that. I mean, I don't know if I would do it at the Oscars. I hope he got paid to do that. What about Ken?
Yeah.
I mean, everyone was talking about Ryan Gosling's musical number. Was it really that good? Is it deserving of the hype that everyone's giving it, or is it just like because the show is just so mundane and kind of slow, and the songs before that were all kind of I guess what I'm saying is, was it great because it was a great musical moment, or because it was great for that evening that was kind of even keel the whole way?
I actually enjoyed it a lot. I thought it was a really good homage to the movie. I thought that it had a really the whole gentlemen prefer blondes homage going on. I think was really well done.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just seemed like a good time. I had a fun time watching it. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree as well. I thought it was a lot of fun. I actually watched the replay of it a couple times because I thought it was super cute. I guess the only thing, and I won't harper on the Oscars too long, is that it was the year of Barbenheimer. Oppenheimer was the big winner, Best Picture. Is Oppenheimer going to hold up? Is this a movie that people are going to remember and continue to watch, or is it one of those films that we go was great but kind of just falls into the pantheons of I have never watched it again? Or
I think it's pretty memorable. I think it's one of my favorite Best Picture winners from the last few years. Obviously, Everything Everywhere Exempt. I think it stands out amongst the crop. I'm gonna remember this over Green Book and Nomadland and other movies that I'm forgetting the title of. But
Parasite.
Not Parasite, obviously, not Parasite. Yeah. But I'm just saying. I think that looking back on the last few crops of winners, I think that this is a clear standout.
Yeah. A movie that really kind of fades for me that I didn't care for either, and I know you loved. I'm in the minority here, but it strikes me as the most recent Oscar winner, and maybe it was because of the mistake they made in announcing it, but Moonlight for me.
Don't say what I think you're gonna say.
Yeah, Moonlight.
Why would you say that?
But
why would you say that though?
When do you ever see it on? I mean, it's not even broadcast much. I don't even see it on
Well, I never see it on because I don't have cable. But
but I feel like that's a movie that doesn't get revisited a lot.
Incorrect, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't know.
Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to veto that take. I don't know.
I think Oppenheimer will probably stand the test of time.
So too.
There you have it. I guess the only question is now, Jackson, will you beat me next year? What will be your strategy next year?
Mean, so far I'm at an upwards trajectory.
You couldn't have gotten worse.
We
than
follow
last
the
year.
graphs.
Yeah. Well, the one thing is you learn to pick what should win, not what you want to win. Sometimes they're the same.
I know.
Sometimes they're not.
But see, I screwed myself. I went too far in, and I let Zone of Interest slip through my fingies.
I got you. We've got reviews coming up. Excuse me. We have reviews coming up of two smaller films that are currently playing in theaters. One's called Love Lies Bleeding, as well as a independent comedy from first-time writer-director called Snack Shack. Whether or not Jackson and I think those are worth hunting down, because they're only going to be in theaters probably another week or two before they're on that video on demand. which, let's be honest, a lot of people are waiting to do now. It seems like they're not going to the theaters unless it's one of the, Ghostbusters is opening this weekend. I'm sure that's going to be huge. But before we get to those new releases that we have both seen, I want to go back and go over some of the old business. First of which, I saw a movie a couple weeks ago, and I completely forgot to mention this when we did our last episode. And I think because I hated it so much. Writer-director Ethan...
I knew you were going to say that.
Ethan Cohen.
Never mind.
Oh, something else. Ethan Cohen, who has ventured off without his brother Joel, has a new movie that came and went. It's probably on your video on demands right now or on your HBOs very, very soon. It is a 2024 release. It was called Drive Away Dolls. Well, it still is. It hasn't gone anywhere. It stars Margaret Qualley. She was in Poor Things and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Geraldine Viswanathan, who I recognize from Blockers, that comedy with John Cena. They play two lesbians who are transporting a car to Florida that has a mysterious item in the trunk. One of the girls is kind of a talking all about the action gal who's suffering from a recent breakup. The other is a proper risk aversion, uptight wad of no fun. Kind of think The Odd Couple if they were lesbians and on a road trip. Ethan Cohen, I read somewhere that his wife told him he had to write and make this movie, and she probably needs to be divorced. I said,
Oh my God.
I said last week that I had probably seen the worst film of the year when I gave you my very brief review of Tyler Perry's Mea Culpa on Netflix.
Are you gonna say this is worse than Tyler Perry's Mea Culpa?
It's right up there. It is horribly uneven acting.
That's hard to hear.
It is a very weird tone. It is going for some kind of laughter that just drops like an anvil. Matt Damon, Pedro Pascal, Coleman Domingo, your Oscar-nominated Coleman Domingo, all have, I would say, cameos in this film, and you can tell that they probably did not. I don't think either one of them even know what the script is about. I think they just said. I think Ethan Cohen called and said, "Would you do 2 days on a movie?" This road trip thing, because they don't even know what film they're in. It is absolutely abysmal. And what's crazy is this got fairly good reviews from the critics. It is not funny. It's not interesting. And it is easily, so far, one of the worst films I've seen this year. Drive Away Dolls gets an F. An F. And you know I don't give out Fs very often. So we got I'm not going to let you know if it's worse than the Tyler Perry movie. You'll have to wait and hear my best of 2024 and worst of 2020. I'm sorry, not so best of 2024.
Right.
But I did.
It's funny. I saw a tweet or something that said that watching each of the Coen brothers like solo projects individually makes you kind of understand whose idea certain things were in certain movies. Yeah. I remember as someone saying that, like, oh, well, after watching Drive Away Dolls, you know whose idea it was to put a dildo chair in Burn After Reading. You know, like things like that where it's like...
speaking of which...
You get a sense of who they are.
We're going to kind of jump around. Jackson's got a lot of films to get to, but since we're talking about Coen brothers, I know my son mentioned to me that he saw Burn After Reading. That is a much earlier Coen brothers movie. That came out after they hit it kind of big and were kind of on, I don't want to call their downslide, but they kind of went through a string of movies that just did not commercially do great. A Serious Man, I think The Man in Gray with Billy Bob Thornton.
I love A Serious Man, though. I like The Serious Man a lot.
But one of the films that came out during that period was a movie called Burn After Reading. It was with Brad Pitt, George Clooney. I think was Malkovich in that?
John Malkovich is a huge part of this.
Yeah, huge part of it.
Tilda Swinton, and of course,
Frances
McDormand.
Now, Jackson, why? First off, before I hear what your thoughts were on that, I remember I thought it was fine. I remember enjoying Brad Pitt in it. I remember a few laughs. I thought the script was kind of all over the place. From my recollection, it was kind of an average Coen Brothers movie, probably a solid C for me. First off, why did you decide to watch it, or were you assigned to watch it?
No, I decided to watch this because I'm taking a class on making video essays right now as like an elective, and at the beginning of every class, we're split up into groups, and we have the same group every week. And each one of us got to pick one movie to make video essays of throughout the semester. And one of the people in my group chose Burn After Reading. So I've been seeing Burn After Reading clips, like in video essay form, since the start of the semester. So a lot of this movie I had already seen. And not just that, but one of our assignments was that I had to combine my movie with another movie, and I chose Burn After Reading because it had like some similar themes to the movie that I chose. And I really wish I hadn't done that, because sitting in class and watching the clips in this movie, I was laughing my ass off so hard.
There's a couple of really funny scenes. Hilarious
moments. Brad Pitt, George Clooney, and John Malkovich all play against type so well in this movie. Yeah. George Clooney especially. I wish that he would just take more goofy character roles, because he plays it so well in here. Brad Pitt had me on the floor laughing with this dumb little like gym bro dance stuff that he had going on.
You think he spent a few times in a gym with trainers around, knowing
exactly. Exactly. No, I just really funny stuff. The problem was, Dad, that I had seen most of this movie already, and so I kind of spent a lot of it being like, that was funny the first three times I saw it before class. I genuinely think that if I had seen this without having seen anything of it beforehand, I would have given this a higher rating. I still did enjoy it, but having seen so much of it, I mean, having skimmed through the whole movie to make my assignment earlier this week, it kind of blew it. It kind of blew it a little bit for this movie, unfortunately. And sometimes that just happens. But with that being said, I still did enjoy this. I'm going to give Burn After Reading a 7 out of 10.
Okay, that might be a little more generous than I was. I just remember the script being kind of uneven, and I do remember kind of the end of it going, I don't really know if I got the point of that completely, but I don't know, man. I just, the Coen brothers came out of the gate so strong. I mean, Blood Simple, Fargo, Raising Arizona, Miller's Crossing, which is incredible. You could debate that's one of their best. Barton Fink, while I'm not a huge fan of it, you can definitely say groundbreaking. Hudsucker Proxy, visually unbelievable. And then No Country for Old Men seemed to be kind of the apex. And then it just seems to be they couldn't quite get it back. Maybe, I don't know why.
Did you not like what was it?
Brother Where Art Thou I loved.
Brother Where Art Thou?
Oh, yeah, I loved. But that was pre No Country for Old Men. Yeah, George Clooney should only work with the Coen brothers. They seem to bring out the best in him, or he should direct. I still think he's an incredible director. I was just thinking of that after talking about Drive Away Dolls. Also, another old movie that I wanted to revisit. This is a movie from last year that Jackson and I talked about way back in early 2023 when it came out. It was one of the biggest commercial bombs of the year, especially considering the amount of time, the budget that went into it, and the passion that went into it. And that was Ari Aster's Beau is Afraid. This was early Oscar bait, especially for Joaquin Phoenix, even pre-Napoleon, which didn't get him a nomination either. We all know my feelings on Ari Aster. He is most definitely not one of my favorites. Midsommar, still one of the worst films I've ever seen. But I appreciate Hereditary, and there's parts of Hereditary that I really like. Jackson had very mixed feelings on Beau is Afraid. It was one of his best reviews, I thought, of the year, because he went from completely praising it to completely lambasting it, and I think ended up giving it somewhere in the area of a 6, 7, maybe an 8 at the most.
I give it a 5, actually.
A 5?
I give it a right down the middle 5. However, I will say I've sat with it longer. I think that I definitely need to revisit it again, because I've talked about it with a lot of people, and I think that I maybe just need to give it another try. Just one of those movies that I think I might have warmed up to over time.
Right. Well, I am going to keep my score, and I am not going to revisit it. I would say Beau is Afraid is probably one of the greatest examples I've seen of dropping the ball and trying too much halfway through. I remember you saying, like, you really thought the first half hour of it was strong, and it was. I was really into the opening of Beau is Afraid. Everything with him in his apartment, everything with the fear of the city, everything with him being taken in by Nathan Lane and the other actress I can't think of, the couple with the war veteran. I was very, very much vested in this. I loved Joaquin Phoenix in it. I thought he was playing, his character was so fleshed out. But then it's like someone needed to tell Ari Aster, stop. You're going way off the deep end. You're introducing too many characters, too many weird scenarios, time travel, giant penises, and really, I have to be honest with you, Jackson, one of the worst endings I have ever seen for a film. Oh, really?
I love the ending a lot.
The trial, and there's just the dead silence after. I don't care if I'm spoiling it. There's a big explosion. And at that, I was so lost at that point in time.
I'm for it.
It's almost like I want to give Beau is Afraid a score on the first half and a score on the second half.
Yeah, I know, right? See, you see what I'm like. What my battle is because the first. There were so many funny. I laughed my ass off so hard in that theater during that whole debacle with the spider and the guy on the ceiling. I thought that was hilarious. The whole bit of the guy like sprinting towards him whenever he's getting to his apartment. One of the funniest lines of the year is when he's getting Joaquin Phoenix is being driven by the teenage daughter in Nathan Lane's family, and she hands him this joint and she's like, hit this, and he goes, what's in that? And she goes, 3 things. And that's all she says.
Just 3 things.
I think that's the funniest thing ever.
There's moments of brilliance here. There really is. And I thought, Ari Aster, clean slate. I'm on board. And I'm giving the first half of Beau's Afraid an A-. I'm giving the second half of Beau is Afraid a D-. So I'm meeting right in the middle with a C on Beau is Afraid.
We're pretty much in agreement.
It's such a shame because it was just such a great start to the film, and then it just went off the rails. I've never seen a film go more off the rails. I was just like, by the way, the stuff with Parker Posey, just crazy. I'm like, Ari, you are working through some sexual issues that I don't quite understand, and I'm certainly not getting it from this. But hey, kudos by the way to Parker Posey. That was a pretty ballsy role.
Production on his newest movie just started, Eddington. It's going to be a western with Joaquin Phoenix.
Eddington, is that about the cute bear? Is that the talking bear? Eddington the bear.
I know it's a weird title, but I think that they just announced. Hold on. A bunch of big hitters. Christopher Abbott and Emma Stone, both who you'd know for Poor Things. That Christopher Abbott was
I loved Christopher Abbott, the husband. He was fantastic.
Emma Stone, Joaquin Phoenix, Pedro Pascal, and Candice Bergen.
Oh yeah, Candice Bergen, old school.
They're all attached to the project right now, but that started production, I believe, last week. So
all right.
I guess I'm glad to see that he's not in director jail. I would have been really upset if that kind of killed his career.
You said it was a western?
It's a western.
Oh, wow. All right. Well, good for him. Just to revisit a past episode once more, Jackson gave a very in-depth review of Dune Part 2 last week. I had not had a chance to get out and see it, but I have now. I took my son's advice. I went and saw it on an IMAX screen, and I can report to you that this movie is visually very, very visual. Okay, if you're into visuals, they're amazing. So I'm not gonna.
I'm being so serious. I'm so close to just logging it off. What are you talking about right now?
Here is my problem with the Dune franchise. Okay, I just don't care about these people. I don't. Is the acting?
Why?
I don't. Why? I don't know why. I'm not saying it's not me. I didn't care for the first one. I didn't hate it. Didn't dislike it. I thought it looked cool. I thought the first one was really bogged down with just a lot of history of the families and the planets and the this and the that. And this one has a little less of that, which is fine. There are some great action sequences. I just didn't care about Timothée Chalamet. I didn't care about Zendaya. I just didn't care. I thought Austin Butler was fine. I mean, it's pretty hard not to look like play a psycho when you're in black and white and you have your head shaved and you're licking a knife and you're pasty white. So I'm not going to say it was an acting tour de force. I think the makeup and everything does half the work for you. I thought Christopher Walken was really distracting in this film. I think, you kind of buy into this world, and then
I agree with you on that.
The planet Dune, you're like, oh, this is taking me out of it a little bit. The characters are just not the most. The mother's horrible. Timothée Chalamet ends up being horrible. It's a bummer of an ending. Visually, I'm going to bow down and go, Denis Villeneuve knows how to shoot this type of film. I'm not faulting the film. I just don't think I'm a fan of Dune. I don't find that world exciting or encapsulating. I didn't want to ride a sandworm like you. I hate
to know what to say to you right now.
I hate to do this, but Dune Part 2 is going to get a B- from me.
Okay. I really thought you were gonna hit me with a C- or something crazy like that.
No,
and I was about to be like, we're gonna have some words.
No, I mean,
I don't mind a B-.
You can see every penny they spent on this thing. Visually, like I said, it's gonna come. This is already your lock for visual effects and sound and
Greg Fraser's got the Oscar.
Yeah, it's already locked in. The film looks amazing. It wants to be a Star Wars or a Lord of the Rings and I just couldn't find a character to be like. I didn't have anyone to root for. I just really was not rooting for anyone, and it's just really watching Timothée Chalamet descend into kind of a despicable guy. Who am I supposed to? Come on, Florence Pugh. I didn't care about anybody.
Because you want him to do better for the people.
But there wasn't one people that I cared about. I was like, there's a lot of extras. But
come on, Javier Bardem was funny, and you know it.
He had a couple. All right. There you have it. So a little bit of old work we had to do there.
Out here in the PGN podcast.
2 new films that I saw that Jackson did not. Then we'll get to his art house and our brand new box office reviews, but I won't spend a lot of time on these because, to be honest with you, neither one needs that much attention. Imaginary is still playing in theaters. That's Blumhouse's new horror film. Boy, Blumhouse is pumping these things out, and while this is not nearly at the horrific level of Freddy gets fingered in the arcade or whatever that Five Freddy's place was, this is still pretty...
Five Nights at Freddy's?
Five Nights.
I was like, Freddy Got Fingered is a comedy movie, I think.
Yeah, I couldn't remember the name. I'm drunk today. This is directed by Jeff Wadlow. He did Fantasy Island and Truth or Dare for Blumhouse as well. DeWanda Wise, she plays Jessica. She's the new stepmom to Taylor and Alice. And Alice, the young one, has an imaginary friend in her teddy bear named Chauncey. Now, it turns out Jessica had an imaginary friend when she was young, and when you know it, they're suddenly moving into the same house that Jessica grew up in, and suddenly imaginary friends aren't so fun anymore.
What?
Yeah, I know. Isn't
You're
that shocking?
telling me they come to life?
You don't spoil it, Jackson. What's sad is that legendary actress Betty Buckley is in this. She's a creepy neighbor who remembers Jessica when she was young and how she also had an imaginary friend and things didn't go too well back then. It's, like I said, it's not as horrific as like the Freddy movie or some of the other Blumhouse trips, but this one's still pretty bad. Imaginary gets a D. It's so weird with Blumhouse, Jackson.
Yeah.
It seems like they do something pretty neat with like The Black Phone with Ethan Hawke. They've had a couple other pretty. I'm trying to think of. There was another. What's one they always hang?
I mean, they do Insidious. I think they have the Insidious franchise and like The Conjuring and.
Yeah, every once in a while they'll get one that's okay, and you're like, all right, we got something there. But this is never going to see the light of day again. I know Megan 2 is coming out, which was there will be.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah, but there will be no Imaginary 2. That's a solid D for me.
Yeah.
The other movie that I saw, remember I try to see the streamers when I can. We were talking about John Cena earlier at the Oscars being naked. He's got a new comedy. Here's another thing about brothers breaking up. At one point, the Farrelly brothers were bringing us things like There's Something About Mary and Kingpin and just some of the classic comedies of the 80s and 90s. Peter Farrelly's been on his own for a while and, of course, gave us Jackson's favorite movie of the last decade, Green Book, as well as the greatest beer run ever.
Oh, Jesus.
Apparently, he really loves Zac Efron. This is his second movie in a row with Zac Efron. It stars Zac Efron, Andrew Santino, who I thought was great in Scrambled earlier this year, and Jermaine Fowler. They play boyhood friends who make up a fictional friend named Ricky Stanicky. First off, by the way, who believes there's going to be someone named Ricky Stanicky, okay? Anyways, they come up with this fictional guy to kind of cover their blunders as kids. They eventually grow into adults, and they continue to use this made-up character of Ricky Stanicky to escape spending time with their wives. Doesn't that sound charming? This is your typical gross-out humor. Maybe a couple bits land. There's bits about masturbation and circumcision and sex this and sex that, and a lot of gross-out humor. William H. Macy is in this as well. I feel like he should be doing better work at this stage in his career. This isn't going to kill anyone's career, but it's certainly not going to make any. I can see that there's a reason why this went straight to Amazon Prime and did not get a theatrical release. I think John Cena is good. I think he knows his way around comedy. He's probably the only guy here working double time. Zac Efron looks tired after all the wrestling training that he did for the Iron Claw. But you can see Cena is throwing everything at the world. I give him a lot of credit for trying to find a vehicle here for himself. Yeah. This is not it. This is silly, stupid comedy. Ricky Stanicky. Ricky Stanicky gets a D+ from me. So those are two films that if you are incredibly bored and can make it through, I highly recommend not watching. But before we get to our two main events, it's time now to tune into Jackson's Art House Corner. Jackson, what have you been forced to watch by your teachers? What has your girlfriend forced you to watch? And what have you wandered into for some crazy reason? I'm sure you didn't see any 4-hour French movies, but do tell. What's going on in your world?
This was a big rewatch week for me, actually, so I'll start with those, and I'll just cover them briefly, because most of these I've actually already talked about on the podcast. The first is I went and revisited Asteroid City. After hearing you rave about it again, I just really thought that it was due for a rewatch. Liked it so much more on a second watch. Yeah. I really do think this is one of Wes Anderson's best films to date. Yeah. Just a great cast. So many scenes that stand out here. I don't know. I just really enjoyed it. This was a day that I just needed a break, it gave that for me. So Asteroid City. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Isn't it crazy? He Asteroid City, no Oscars yet. Wes Anderson won an Oscar this year, and then wasn't even there to accept it.
Wasn't even Asteroid City. Yeah. And you know what? I don't blame him. I'm gonna give Asteroid City a 9. I think I originally gave this a 7. I'm gonna bump it to a 9.
Oh wow.
Yeah, the second one, I've been meaning to rewatch this for a while. I saw it ages ago, like my freshman year of college, so I guess not that long ago. I saw my freshman year of college, and I remember enjoying it, but not loving it too much. And that is Jonathan Glazer's Sexy Beast, his debut. I thought, since he just got all this Oscar buzz behind him, I thought I'd give it another go. I remember just seeing it and thinking of it as like a fun comedy, but I thought, you know what, this guy just made one of the most dense films of arguably the last few years. Maybe this has more to offer, and I think it did. I found a lot more to like about Sexy Beast on rewatch. Is it absolutely hilarious at times? Of course. Some absolutely amazing performances from Ray Winstone and Ben Kingsley. Ben Kingsley just cracks me up in this movie. It's in the discussion of my top 30-40 films of all time. I love Sexy Beast. Yeah, it's so funny, but it's also so competent. A lot of really great visual moments here. I love the symbolism with the rabbit that's coming to to hunt down our main character. And yeah, I think I originally gave Sexy Beast a 7. I am now bumping it to an 8.
It's a 10 for you. For you at home, it's a 10.
Yeah, you think so?
I think so.
Hey, who knows? Maybe every time I rewatch it, I'll just bump it up a score until we get there.
Maybe.
These next two I rewatched for very specific reasons. The first is I rewatched Mad Max Fury Road. I hadn't seen this since it was originally in theaters, and I felt like I needed to buff up on my Mad Max knowledge before the new prequel about Furiosa comes out. And this was, again, a lot of fun. I don't really have much to say about this. It's just kind of a great action flick, you know. I mean, it's a great watch. It's visually stunning. I mean, George Miller sure knows his way around a camera. Not much to say about this that hasn't already been said.
So here's what you should know about Mad Max. Since we're on, this has been the road of Mad Max, if you will, no pun intended. The original Mad Max, shot in Australia, shoestring budget, Mel Gibson's first movie, and really bad. It's not good. It looks low budget. It looks low budget. The acting is horrible. You usually see it here in the States with a dubbed version because the Australian accents were so heavy. You can't understand what half the characters are saying. That's so crazy. There's a very dubbed version. It is horrible, but it became kind of an underground hit in Australia and America. The studios gave him a budget to do what really is, to be honest with you, a remake of Mad Max, but technically you call it kind of a sequel. Let's just call it a continuation of the story, which is The Road Warrior, which is phenomenally good. Phenomenal. And if you go back and watch that, everything is practical. There was no CGI back then. I'm amazed they didn't have more people dead from this film. The Road Warrior is fantastic. That becomes a huge blockbuster. And then the studios gave Miller a ton of money and went and did Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, which is one that had Tina Turner, which is a solid film. It's good. It's a little slow. It's one of those, the first hour, it's a little slow. Mad Max finds kids. We see the softer side of Mad Max. It's a little Hollywood.
Right.
You can see the studios going, we gotta care about him. Have him find a soft spot. Before he was just mad. That's the whole point. And then things happen and he gets mad for a second.
Right.
But it's a good movie. Then it went away. And then when George Miller came back, I don't think George Miller was a big fan of Beyond Thunderdome. I don't think he likes the way that turned out, where the story was going. So the one you watch, Fury Road, was kind of him going back to the Road Warrior, where if I got a ton of money, these are going to be angry people. It's going to be dirty and gnarly and not glossy. And that's where you got Fury Road. I'm worried about Furiosa. I'm worried. I have to be honest. It looks like a lot of CGI.
I'm excited.
It looks like a lot of CGI though. It looks like a lot. I've been how many times have we seen the trailer now? Like 50, 60 times? And I'm like, boy, that doesn't
like a bajillion times.
Yeah, I keep waiting for like the practical stunts. Maybe they're holding it off. I don't know. I'm going to see it. Obviously will. I'm just letting you know.
I'll see it too. I'll see it too. But anyways, I'm re-upped on my Mad Max lore for at least this reboot.
Got it.
And I know that the trailer doesn't look the best, but I'm still excited to see where it goes. Mad Max Fury Road for me is going to get an 8. And lastly, probably my most angry rewatch is that me and some friends sat down to rewatch Akira Kurosawa's High and Low.
Okay.
And this wasn't just for no reason. It's just because Spike Lee has taken upon himself to remake this film with Denzel Washington.
Of course.
They just announced today that oh my God, I'm forgetting his name. The guy from American Fiction is also attached to it.
Jeffrey Wright. Sterling K. Brown or Jeffrey Wright? Jeffrey Wright. Okay.
Jeffrey Wright is also attached to this. This is arguably the #1 movie I would pick to never need a remake. Really, I cannot think of a single reason to remake this movie. It truly timeless, completely universal, transcends nations, races. This is just a phenomenal phenomenal film from one of the best filmmakers of all time. There is no way to make a movie that is better than this or even on par with it with the same storyline. Spike Lee is out of his mind to even attempt this, considering the last time he tried to remake a foreign film, it was the Oldboy remake that is one of the worst critically received remakes ever made. I could not be less excited for this if I tried. This movie's a 10. It just is. So good luck, Spike.
Well, Jackson, listen.
I wish you the best of luck.
If they could remake Dirty Dancing and they can remake Footloose, I'm sure Spike Lee will do a hell of a job with your Akira Kurosawa movie High and Low. I have faith in Spike.
I have no faith.
I'm
glad you have some faith. I have no faith.
All right.
Yeah. Anyways, that's it for my rewatches. I still have a few new movies I've seen. I'll start with I'll say the most popular one. This is a weird pick. A buddy of mine was staying at my house over this past weekend, and I came downstairs and he asked me if I wanted to watch The Adventures of Tintin, the Steven Spielberg animated film based off of the comic book. I remember you mentioning
that to me. That's odd because that's not even like an anime thing, which I know you appreciate. That's kind of straight up just old school animation, isn't it? Or maybe slightly computerized.
It's motion capture. It's like motion capture. And you know what? This is a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with this movie. I didn't think that it was. Listen, is it like fantastic? I don't think it's by no means incredible, but I mean, listen. There's definitely a lot of Indiana Jones in this. There's a lot of that Spielberg charm to it.
It tanked big time. That was a huge box office dud. Yeah.
Which is surprising because I think that as a kid I would have loved this movie. And also just really great performances from Andy Serkis and Daniel Craig, who plays completely against type. I would have never in a million years have thought that he would have been the voice behind this.
Yeah, Spielberg had a couple bombs with stop motion. Then he did the BFG. Remember that one? Another one that just kind of tanked.
Yeah, that really.
He loves that format, but for some reason, put together with him, it doesn't seem to happen. What's the Adventures of Rin-Tin get?
I still had a fun time. It's going to get a 7.
Oh, okay. That's a little higher than I thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's going to get a 7. I had a lot of fun with it. Let's see. I'm going on the list.
So far, Jackson, your art house corner is not nearly pretentious enough. I hope you have something more pretentious coming up.
Well, we're about to get there. Our next movie comes from a director that we have talked about on this podcast before. Mm-hmm. It's a director whose film I Made You Watch, a movie that they most recently made called Shoplifters. In fact, did you see Broker? Did you really see Broker?
No, I saw Shoplifters. I saw Shoplifters.
Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm. That's what I thought. Anyways, this is an earlier film from director Hirokazu Koreeda, who has made one of my favorite films of all time called Shoplifters. This is a very similar movie that deals with very similar themes. It's very family-centered, about a man who is remarried and has kind of a dysfunctional family who is going back to visit his in-laws. And you know what? I'm going to chalk this one up to just being very good. Okay. I don't think that this is going to stick with me nearly as much as Shoplifters did. I definitely didn't leave it as happy as I wish I had, but there was a lot of great moments in this movie. It lost itself at points, but still, I really came out of this. I don't know.
Mixed.
Having a little more perspective, I think, on some things.
You sound
I wouldn't call it mixed. I would call it just underwhelmed, but not to a degree that I disliked it. Just it wasn't as phenomenal as one of my favorite films ever made.
Okay. Fair enough.
And yeah, so Still Walking for me gets a 7.
Still walking.
Just flat up. And
are they still walking at the end of the film? Were they still walking, or did they eventually stop?
Most of them are still walking.
Oh,
most of them are still walking by the end of the film.
Well, there'll be a sequel called "They're Still."
You're still walking.
Believe it or not, they're still walking. What else?
But yeah, that's all. This is the last movie I saw. This is the one art house film that I went to see in theaters.
Wait till you hear this. Wait till you hear this, ladies and gentlemen.
Quite a long time. And listen, I know that you might chalk this up to some pretentious bullshit, but this this is the #1 rated film according to Sight and Sound's highly prestigious poll. of the best movies ever made.
So
it's the top one. And so I was like, I have to see this movie.
According to Sight and Sounds, they say this is the best film in the history of filmmaking.
Yeah. Well, keep in mind it's a poll. It's not like one. It's not like just an organization. Like they do a very large poll of like people in the industry.
Okay. And
and this happened to be at the top of the list.
What is the name of this film?
The film's title is Jean Dielman, 23 Quai de Commerce, 1080 Brussels.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you right. I'm gonna stop you right there for a second. What's the name of the movie again? Did you say the God? Did you say the God? Did you say the Godfather?
I probably butchered it.
Did you say Citizen Kane?
No, it's not. Yeah, I did not say either of those.
What list is this the top of?
Sight and Sound.
Sight and Sound. Okay. And you go ahead. I'm going to look up the Sight and Sound top 10 list.
This is a big deal. Sight and Sound it's the Sight and Sound top 100, I believe.
Top 100. Okay. I'm taking a look.
Anyways, this film comes from a Belgian filmmaker named Chantal Akerman, a female director from the 70s. This is bar none her most known movie. It is very famous for its long runtime and I would argue purposeful boredom. This is a really, really interesting film that details the life of a widowed single mother who works as a sex worker, going through her day-to-day life in incredible detail. This movie is mundane. It is boring. It drags on. I'm talking 10-minute uncut shots of a woman peeling potatoes. Boring. It is phenomenal though. This is a great film.
Jean Dielman, 23 Quai du Commerce, 1080 Bruxelles, something.
Yep.
Okay. And how long was this movie?
Did you hear anything I just said? By the way, I'm sorry. I think I cut out. But did you hear anything I just said?
I heard everything. Yeah, I hear all.
Okay.
Of it. Yep.
Yeah. This movie came out in 1975. It stars a absolutely phenomenal performance from Delphine Seyrig, who has been in a lot of other foreign, I believe, French films. She's been in a lot of Jacques Demy movies and some Buñuel as well. But this is absolutely an incredible performance. I mean, it's so interesting the way this movie just lulls you into being comfortable with it, and then right in the last 30 minutes, I mean, you can feel the moment the theater realizes what's going on. There's a moment. I mean, Dad, we're like 3 hours. We're probably 3 hours into watching this woman just do house chores, and we're on like her third day, our third day of watching this woman live, and she drops a brush when she's shining her son's shoes, and it's the most abrupt, the most abrupt thing ever out of complete mundanity. I don't know. I could talk about this movie for hours. I don't want to bore everyone to death because I know that not many people have seen this movie that are watching this probably.
You don't know that.
But if you get a chance to see this in theaters, and you're at all interested in a filmmaker who has complete and full control over the form, I cannot recommend any higher Chantal Akerman's Jean Dielman.
How many times did you get up to pee during this? And were you terrified you were going to miss something?
Once. I was
right.
Actually, I was terrified because I didn't know where this was going.
Right.
And again, it's a woman doing house chores for 3 hours, but it's like, something's gonna happen and you don't know when. I got up to pee probably within the first 30 minutes just because I knew I was gonna have to go, and I was like, I better do this now when I know nothing's gonna happen.
The top 10 movies according to Sight and Sound are: number 10, Singing in the Rain. Okay. Number 9,
all right,
Man with a Movie Camera from Ukraine. Never heard of it, never saw it. Number 8.
Can you show me? Is there a picture with it?
Yeah. Well, there's like a still. See the still?
Can I see?
I'm showing it on the camera.
Hold on, you're frozen for a second. Just hold it there. Keep holding it. You're frozen. I'm waiting for it to skip to a frame where you're holding the phone.
Right there.
Huh. All right.
Yeah, Man with a Movie Camera. Number 8, Mulholland Drive, one of your faves from David Lynch.
Love that movie.
That's top 10. Wow. Number 7, Beau Travail from France, 1998 movie.
Oh, Beau Travail.
Travail.
Claire Denis.
Number 6. I mean, I'm done. I'm done. 2001: A Space Odyssey. I just don't understand the.
You knew it was gonna be. Come on, you can't. I mean, listen, me and you both do not like that movie, but you can't be surprised.
I don't understand. Number 5, one of your favorites of all time, In the Mood for Love from Hong Kong, 2000 film, which was very good. I saw. Number 4, Tokyo Story. I never saw, but have heard of. That's the 1950s Japanese movie. Number 3, Citizen Kane. Again, I made you watch it, but I think you recall it's not the most fascinating of films. Number 2, again, it's always...
I liked it. I like Citizen Kane a lot, actually.
It's fine. Number 2, it's just not even in my top 3 or 4 Hitchcock movies, but everyone loves Vertigo. Vertigo, number 2. And then, number 1, Jean de...
I actually haven't seen Vertigo.
Well,
Jean Dillman.
It's number 2 on your list. If you can see 3 hours of a woman doing house chores, I think we can make it through an Alfred Hitchcock movie. All right, interesting. All right, I agree with.
But I'm going to give that a 9.
Jean 9.
Jean Dillman's going to get a 9 for me.
So let me ask you this, and we'll move on. When the movie does finally, something does happen 3 hours into the film, is it a payoff? Is it worth it? Or is it just like, oh, that was it?
Absolutely. So, it's because, again, you have 3 hours of chores, and then there's one small action that kind of breaks the cycle. And then from there, I mean, I don't think I've ever been so anxious in a movie theater because everything just kind of crumbles apart, and my heart was racing so hard. And then when the big thing finally happens at the ending, which I'm not going to spoil, but there's a massive event that happens towards the end.
Can I just...
It's just geez, okay.
Can I just watch, the hour and 10 minutes of house chores leading up to it?
No,
why do I have to sit through 3 hours? If nothing
because
happens...
Because you have to get used to... It's part of it. You have to get used to the routine. You have to understand every action so that when it's broken... Because otherwise there's no payoff.
2 hours.
You have to watch the full thing. You have to watch the full thing. You can't just skip around. That's not how it works.
2:10, that's my max. I come in 50 minutes late to the movie.
You got to do the full 3. You have to do the full 3.
I don't know if that's going to happen. It's the PGN
You
podcast.
would have hated it. You would have hated it. I would never make you watch this movie. And
I don't know if that's happening, son. Parental guidance is neglected, and as you can see, I really neglected him because he's sitting in a theater watching a woman do dishes for 3 hours. All right. But he swears the payoff's worth it.
This is a really great movie.
I may have to Google spoilers on that one because now I'm dying to know what the hell happened.
I'll just tell you how it ends if you're not going to see it.
Yeah, okay. Tell me off air. I don't want to ruin it for the countless fans who are running to the Criterion page right now. Next week on the PGN podcast, we're going to be back. We're going to be playing hopefully a little bit of catch up because there are a lot of movies that have slipped through the cracks or are currently playing or are getting ready to open. So some possibilities that you may be hearing about next week is obviously the Ghostbusters franchise continues with Frozen Empire. All the originals are back along with Paul Rudd. Neither one of us have seen the Bob Marley movie. Maybe one of us will bite the bullet and see that. I'm debating whether I'm going to Arthur the King just because I love adventure racing. I'm not sure if I can sit through a Mark Wahlberg dog bonding movie, but maybe I can, and maybe I'll be surprised. I think Jackson and I both have plans this weekend to go see Immaculate. That's the new Sydney Sweeney religious-based horror film. The American Society of Magical Negroes not doing well at the theaters, but is still out there. Maybe we'll drag ourselves to that. And then there's a new art house film that we were set to see, but now we're going to have to race all over California to see it, called Problemista. Has Tilda Swinton and looks very avant-garde and right up my son's wheelhouse. As far as streaming goes, there's a new movie on Netflix called Damsel with Millie Bobby Brown or whatever, where I think she plays Hansel or Gretel or something. Lindsay Lohan has a romantic comedy.
Man, they're really trying to make her work, aren't they? They're really trying to make that work. I don't know if it's happening.
I don't know if she's got something. She's got to get away from that Stranger Things because so far she hasn't found the vehicle yet.
Yeah,
man. Lindsay Lohan has a new romantic comedy on Netflix called Irish Wish, so I can almost guarantee Jackson will be watching that with his girlfriend with a gun held to his hand at some point. And then I'm very curious. Opening this coming weekend on Amazon is Roadhouse with Jake Gyllenhaal. a movie that he is screaming for us not to see. The director doesn't want us to see because they are very mad it didn't get a theatrical release. So my question really is, was it worth a theatrical release? Because sometimes it's or was this the Ricky Stanicky type movie that really doesn't deserve your $15.95 to go see it in the theater? Also, next week, all those movies, some of them, maybe whatever. Also, Jackson, we will be back next week with a top 10 list. And Jackson kind of alluded to it earlier, doesn't even know it's coming. Jackson and I will have our top 10 list of the 10 best remakes of all time.
Ooh, good one.
These are remakes, 10 best remakes. Doesn't mean they're great films. Maybe it improved on the first one. Maybe it captured the spirit of the second one. Maybe it's a movie that was fantastic the second time and was a tank the first.
Okay.
So it could be a film. It could be a remake of a foreign film. It could be a remake of an American film. Sequels do not count. It has to be a remake of a motion picture.
Got it.
We'll be back with our top 10 for that as well. But we did get out to the theaters this week. 2 new films. Very curious to see what my son has to say about these. The first one we saw together, it's called Love Lies Bleeding. This is from writer-director Rose Glass. This is her second feature. She did a horror movie about 4 or 5 years ago called Saint Maud that got a little bit of heat on it. This stars Kristen Stewart, who everyone knows from the Twilight movies and from Pouting a Lot. She plays Lou, a lesbian in a small rural town in New Mexico in the early 80s. She works the desk and cleans the toilets of a small gym owned by her gun-running father, 4-time Oscar nominee Ed Harris. Her sister, Jenna Malone, is busy getting beaten by her brother-in-law, played by the very, I think, effective Dave Franco. And life is all about avoiding the pitfalls of her ex-lesbian girlfriend, Daisy, who is played by Anna Baryshnikov. Yes, that is the daughter of ballet great Mikhail Baryshnikov. In, however,
That's so random.
I know. In walks Jackie, a jacked-up gal who has dreams of being a professional bodybuilder, played by the Mandalorian's Katie O'Brien, and things start to fall apart. This is what starts as a rather dramatic period piece that looks like it's going to go down the avenue of either a typical thriller or maybe a little noirish feel to it. Takes a very weird turn in the final act, becoming almost a bit of a fantasy train ride through, steroid mysticism. It's a tough one to nail down as far as a category goes. It was not as effective with me as I would have liked it to be. I thought it came out of the gates pretty strong. I do like some of the performances in this, especially Dave Franco. I thought he was very good, as well as Baryshnikov's daughter as the kind of nutty local lesbian Daisy. I believed her character 100%. And I think Kristen Stewart is okay in this. I mean, I don't know how much range. I know she got a lot of heat a couple years ago when she played Princess Diane in a movie, and people are saying the girl's got talent. I think she's good in this. This is a movie that had me in the first half and really petered off in the second. But before I go on further, Jackson, what are your thoughts on Love Lies Bleeding?
Okay. I think that I had two pretty big issues with this movie.
Okay.
Just to get out of the way, I really did not like the ending of this movie.
Oh, no.
I felt that it was a complete left turn from a complete departure from any of the tone and genre and style that was established throughout the rest of the movie.
It's a weird, distorted.
I don't want to spoil it or anything, but yeah.
Did you get it? Did you get
actually,
any of that?
I had 3 issues with this movie. Now that I think about it,
did you get any of that ending? By the way, the size.
No, I didn't.
I didn't. I was like, I didn't even get the message of it or what was happening. Okay.
My second issue is that, and listen, maybe you know more about this just because you work at a gym. Dude, I don't think that steroids do that to you. Is this just like me just projecting? But like, I don't think that.
Steroids do. There is such a thing as roid rage. It does make people extremely angry. So the meltdown that she has in Vegas, very, very accurate and real. Now, if at first when they started doing, and I won't give too much away here, but they almost did like when she first starts taking the steroids, we would see the veins pop out of her and the growth, and I was like, well, that's a very weird artistic choice to make, because that's not really what steroids do. But the steroids do really mess with your emotions, and roid rage is a very big thing. People have been, there's been so many instances of spousal abuse and things under roid rage. I then guess that the whole point of her kind of growing and the shirt and the veins popping is what eventually led to the incredible Hulkish type ending we had that was like, oh, it's all so overblown. But as far as
I think that I'm less talking about, because roid rage is very real, but more of like the seeing things and like everyone's eyes look like almost like acid trip visuals. I was just like, I'm not really buying this. I don't think that's
the whole birthing
realistic.
Birthing thing was weird. I'm not saying the whole birthing thing was really weird too. When Kristen Stewart came out of her, I was like, I don't know. Okay, go on.
Yeah, give me flashbacks to Men, and we all know how much I love that movie.
Mm-hmm.
The number one problem with this movie, though, is I just did not think that the dialogue was well written.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, because genuinely, I think that both of the leads are great actresses. I think that they were given a really rough script to go off of. Some of those lines were just really tough. There was one or two times where someone would say something, and I'd go like,
"Yeah,
ooh. That doesn't." That people just don't talk like that. I'm sorry, but so I don't know. Aesthetically, this movie's gorgeous. It's very well shot.
Mm-hmm.
This is like a very new on the scene DP. I'm very excited to see what he does in the future. I like this. I like the sound, like the score, like everything aesthetically came together really well. Outside of that, I just think this movie had a lot of holes in it.
I was really disappointed with Ed Harris too. I felt like he seemed bored. I'm not saying I wanted him to be over the top. I didn't find him a great villain. I wasn't terrified of him. We talked a little bit earlier about Beau is Afraid as a movie that just really, I think, went off the rails. This one did not go off that much, but it was a movie that just suddenly was a totally different film than we had sat down for the first 45, 50 minutes of.
Yeah.
And I did not like the landing at all, and they didn't stick it. Love Lies Bleeding for me gets a C-. It is right there on the cusp of being below average.
Yeah, I'm right there with you at a 4 out of
10. Which is a shame.
Disappointing though. I was really excited for that.
Yeah. It looked like, I'd love to say and
to be fair, we are in the minority, so don't let us dissuade you from seeing it. But those are just my opinions.
I think that Rose Glass, the writer and director, hopefully she has some other scripts that I think maybe might be a little more solid coming down the track. But I think she definitely has a great eye for the camera, and look forward to seeing what she does next. The other movie that Jackson and I we saw separately this week. This is night and day in that maybe tonally it's different, but this is another movie that's a bit of a flashback. Love Lies Bleeding took place in the 80s in a small town in New Mexico, where Snack Shack takes place in 1991, so we're just coming out of the 80s, and this takes place in a small town in Nebraska. We're introduced to Moose and AJ, and you know you're in a teen comedy when you hear the names Moose and AJ. They're played by Gabriel LaBelle. You'll know him from The Fabelmans, and Connor Sherry. This is his kind of big screen debut, and they are all about the money. Back in 1991, this is evident by the sprinkling of lame early 90s classic songs that fill this soundtrack. So if you don't know what period in, the second you hear, every single one of those one-hit wonders from the 90s, you know where you're at. It's nostalgic, and the 90s was never my era, but it's still fun to kind of go back and remember how much we hated the fashion and the music back then. So these two boys, their desire for nothing more than to make a profit soon have them purchasing and running the local pool's snack shack, and dollar bills start rolling in. The question, however, though, is can they conquer the local high school bullies? pull one over on their parents, and will a beautiful new lifeguard tear a wedge in between the two entrepreneurs? Snack Shack is in many ways two different films, like Love Lies Bleeding as well. I think the movie shifts tonally in the final act, but I think it worked. It's very hard sometimes to come in with just very much your standard kind of screwball comedy, teen rollicking. We've got it all here. We've got the bullies in the Ferrari. We've got them constantly getting into trouble with their parents. We've got the annoying sister, and of course the hot new girl who moves in next door for the summer that both are pining for. When the movie does take a bit of a serious turn, and I'm not going to say it's a downer necessarily, I think it did it really effortlessly, and that's a hard thing to pull off sometimes. I very, very much enjoyed Snack Shack. Writer-director Adam Raymeyer, this is his first big film. I don't know if he's the most creative guy out there yet. I got a feeling this might just be a slice of life and some amalgams of different stories that happened to him when he was young. But I think at the very least, he needs to be praised for guiding what I think is a very talented cast into making every effort to make a realistic film at a subject matter that could have easily been way too goofy. I have other thoughts, but Jackson, what did you think about Snack Shack?
I think that I agree with you to some extent. I don't think that I enjoyed it as much as you did. I think that, again, I have two kind of gripes with it. I think that the love interest is a little bit underwritten. I think that they could have done more with her character in general. I wasn't really necessarily a huge fan of the whole shit pig thing. I don't think that really landed with me as a funny bit, and it kind of got ran into the ground. And I do agree that I think that when they do make that tonal shift, I think it was successful, but I think that the pacing of the film was definitely a bit off, in that we're given a lot of time in the first half and definitely not as much in the second. But with that being said, I overall I still did enjoy this. I think that the two leads in this film are incredible. Like, they're great. Bright futures ahead of both of these guys. As much as I wasn't the biggest fan of the Fabelmans. I do think that Gabriel was a great did a great job in that. I think he does a great job here. This movie had me laughing out loud at multiple moments. I mean, I saw this with my mom last night, and we both were laughing way harder than we should have at this dumb moment when one of the leads is dragging a dolly with ice on it.
Nice
down
wheels.
The street, and some random neighbor for no reason just goes, "Nice wheels, douchebag," and it's never come back. Like, we don't know who that is.
Don't even know who he is.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also
there was also worth mentioning. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, worth mentioning, a fight broke out in our theater at the very beginning, so we missed some of the earlier scenes. Some woman got into an argument with a lady sitting next to her, and they just wouldn't leave the theater, and it was super distracting.
What?
Yeah, just came out of nowhere.
What was the fight about?
Weird?
Like a fist fight or just screaming at each other?
I don't know. All I know is like this lady and her husband stood up and she was like, there's no need to be an asshole about this. You're distracting everyone, and I don't even want to sit here and be in the movie anymore. And then after saying that, proceeded to not leave the theater for another 5 minutes while she just argued with this lady. Yeah, so wow. That definitely wasn't the best theater experience ever, but
I did not know that.
But yeah, outside of that, I think overall I enjoyed it. I don't think that I think that all of the people involved with this movie have bright futures ahead of them. I hope they work together more in the future. I think this can definitely be taken up a step.
Yeah, I agree with everything you say. I would also give, I think, a little bit of kudos to Mika Abdallah, who plays the girl. I actually thought she was really, really good. And could have easily been. I think everyone in here could have been easily more a caricature than they were. It needs to be fleshed out a bit. But to me, this is like, I knew going in, this was a first-time film for most of them. This is the first big thing. And to come in and do a movie like this the first time and I think stick the landing and stick it that well, it makes me give it a little more kudos and appreciation. If this was their third, fourth, fifth film, I might go, okay.
Right. All right. What's going on?
Yeah. But Snack Shack for me, very much like Scrambled, which is a small independent movie I saw earlier this year. For me personally, is one of the better films of the year so far. It's early, and God knows I've sat through a lot of Tyler Perry and Imaginary and ISS. So I know the bar is not real high right now. But I'm giving Snack Shack a very solid B+. I enjoyed it very much.
All right, I definitely didn't like it as much as you did. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10.
Ooh, I think it deserves at least a 7.
That's a positive score. It's a positive score.
I still think it's like 7 and a half.
Score, man.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Jackson is home for spring break. As you can see, he's in my set, and I've been relegated to the basement again.
Yep.
With my one dog with a blog poster. And you will be here until Sunday. I'm sure we're going to see a couple more movies, and then hopefully he's not too swamped when he gets back. Jackson, what's the last couple months for you going to look like at school before you're home for the summer and we can see movies constantly? What do you
classes, sets, same old, nothing crazy, nothing insane, but yeah.
No, anything coming up at American Cinematique that you're excited about? Some Bulgarian 8-hour movie where a woman cleans her feet, but something happens in the 7th hour that you have to see all the 6 hours.
No, I did get a email this morning though that John Bon Jovi is going to be there, showing off a documentary that apparently a Bon Jovi documentary.
Yeah, there is a Bon Jovi documentary coming out, and I've actually heard it's good.
Yeah, well, he's going to be there talking about it with the filmmaker.
Right. And let me guess, sold out.
Well, it's free. It's a free screening, so I have a feeling that one probably sold out. But
yeah,
I couldn't make it anyway, so it's all good.
That's right. You're not a huge Bon Jovi fan.
Yeah.
That is my son Jackson Burns. Please follow him on the social interweb, on the TikTok and the Instagram at Jackson N. That's N as in Nancy, an extra N, Burns. You can follow me on Instagram at Regan.Burns, and please follow the PGN podcast on Instagram as well. Please like, subscribe us on YouTube or Spotify or wherever you're listening or watching your podcast thing. And make sure to patronize our Patreon page that is still not up, but just imagine it is, and start sending in funds now so that I can get more elaborate set behind me. And then anyone who is watching doesn't have to sit through the 15 glitches that happened on the video while we were recording it. We are back next week with brand new movies, our top 10 remakes of all time, and I will let you know what song I picked for Jackson and if he liked it or not. All right. Anything else, buddy?
I think that's it. Yeah.
All right, everybody. Until next time, don't do anything we wouldn't do. And, boy, I don't have anything to add to that. That was a stall, wasn't it?
All right. I'll see you guys next week. Love you guys.
Love you. Bye-bye.